one hand extended into the universe and one hand extended into the world, and letting ourselves be a conduit for passing energy. That's exactly what is happening this evening. We are all conduits of that passing energy, and it's all made possible by the incredibly engaging work of Emily Brzezinski. Tonight we are opening the New York Tech Woodlands Art Collection inaugural exhibit, Art, Health, and Wellness, The Power of Nature Through the Eyes of Sculptor Emily Brzezinski, in our new Nada Asaf Anid Art Gallery and Student Lounge. Emily is joining us through FaceTime, and Nada's family is here in person. We are all really lucky to actually be here to celebrate two such inspirational women. I am Suzanne Musho, the Vice President of Real Estate Development and Sustainable Capital Planning and the Chief Architect of New York Tech, and I'm thrilled, touched, and proud that we're all here together. They say to search for art in everything. At New York Tech, that is exactly what we do. The Woodlands Art Collection is an idea developed at one of only 2 in-person meetings that I've had with the New York Tech President's Council since I started this role, and I'd be happy to tell you that story later. We all discussed our belief that once people visit our campuses, they want to stay. The education, the culture of acceptance, the open-mindedness, the joy and energy of our campuses, all possible because of our diversity, makes people feel comfortable and makes our students feel at home. We hope that after this evening, all of you understand that feeling and are inspired to be part of our mission to provide an exemplary education to the most deserving of students. Our New York City campus is in the middle of it all, sitting across from Central Park and also just steps from Lincoln Center. Our sister campus in Long Island is 260 acres of ancient woodlands and thousands of trees. As you might imagine, both campuses have experienced the effects of Mother Nature, and as a result, both have a persistent focus on sustainability. President Hank Foley, that's the president of New York Tech, emphasizes the student experience as the forefront of our mission. What better way is there to reinforce the student experience than to provide new, unique, enriching experiences? What better way to encourage more visitors to our campuses other than showing the creativity, sustainability, and beauty of art? That is how the Woodlands Art Collection was born. To truly embody the New York Tech mission, the first exhibit of the art collection needed to be a marriage of art and nature, exemplifying our commitment to ecology and our university sustainability action plan. And I sought artists who would reinforce that vision. That is how I met Emily and Mika Brzezinski. Through a lot of research, a lot of conversations, and ideas from colleagues, I found Emily's website. And if you go to her website, she has on the website, if you have a felled tree you think would make a good trunk for me to carve, please send your photos. So I emailed Emily that New York Tech has trees that could benefit from her magic. Then we had our first conversation on a Friday night in winter, and Emily, Mika, and I were able to create this amazing exhibit with important, relevant themes, enhancing the student experience at New York Tech. Emily's work, which you will see, is an amazing combination of art, engineering, and nature. So now I will introduce our visionary president of New York Tech. Hopefully he'll pop out. There he is. Hank Foley, who is an accomplished leader in higher education and a respected researcher who has dedicated more than 30 years to advancing the study of nanotechnology. Yes, nanotechnology. He holds 16 patents and has written more than 150 articles and a textbook that he'd be happy to give you, and has mentored nearly 50 undergrad and graduate thesis students. He's an inspiration to all of our students at New York Tech every day. Please welcome Hank Foley, who is joining through Zoom.
Suzanne, thank you very much for that introduction. Welcome to all of you. I'm very pleased to have you here tonight on this auspicious occasion. To Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, and Mayor de Blasio, I extend the warmest of greetings on behalf of everyone in the New York Tech community. Last week, in the course of my work as president, I had a luncheon meeting with a person who developed COVID symptoms over the weekend and tested positive on Sunday. I disclosed my exposure this morning, and that unfortunately precludes me from being on campus tonight. I think it's crucial that I follow the same rules as everyone else follows. So regrettably, I'm forced to do this remotely, but by now we're all more or less used to it. I know the event, however, and all of you are in just terrific hands. So why are we here today? Well, Suzanne alluded to it. I'll add my own thoughts. We're here today because of strategy and ideas. First, our strategy is to do everything that we can to enhance the student's experience while at New York Tech. We want to make their educational experience a highlight of their lives. We believe a key to that experience is to engage and bridge both sides of the student brain, not just the analytical, but also the synthetic, not just the critical, but also the aesthetic, and not just in the classroom, but in other places as well. With that in mind, one idea flowing out of this strategy was to create new spaces for our students, the experience of which would be enriching for them. The space you're in tonight that you're standing in is one such space. Like the two sides of our brains that are similar but different, we have two campuses here in New York, where even though that which we teach is similar, the contexts and the environments in which we teach and in which our students learn are different. Here in Manhattan, we have a quintessential urban campus with all the excitement and energy that goes with being in the middle of the capital city of the world, New York City. On Long Island, we have a more natural, forested campus in the Wheatley Hills, with all the beauty of rhododendrons flowering in the spring and of leaves turning red and yellow in autumn. So another idea that flowed out of this was that of art. To use art to somehow mirror and reflect the two campuses in order to bridge them and bring them closer together. We thought we could do so, but whose art was the question? To reflect our wooded Long Island campus in Manhattan, the answer was Emily Brzezinski's art. Her sculptures embody the forest and the power of nature, which is what we were seeking exactly. From what was once the great estate of the Whitney family in Old Westbury, and that is now our campus, Emily's sculptures bring the essence of the Woodlands to the very heart of our Manhattan campus, to where our students gather. In the midst of all this planning for this wonderful event, sadly, a few short weeks ago, we lost one of our most dynamic colleagues, Vice President and Dr. Nada Asif Anit. Nada loved what we were doing for our students in these spaces, and she would have loved this event tonight. She was as artistic as she was analytical. She was an engineer and an aesthete. With those qualities of hers in mind, with her epitomizing our ethic of education, my colleagues and I chose to remember her by naming this place in her honor. Nada's family is here with us tonight, and though they remain grief-stricken for their loss, perhaps seeing Nada remembered in this way lessens their grief, if only briefly. Central to all of this was Suzanne Musho, our dynamic vice president. She went not just the extra mile to make all this happen, but many extra miles, literally to Florida and back. She envisioned, designed, and organized this and saw it through to this result. She is nothing short of a force of nature herself. To her credit, Suzanne truly understands the fundamental importance of the whole of the student experience to their education. She actively is redesigning and re-engineering our spaces to provide humanized places for our students to study and to come together, places that are as aesthetically appealing as they are practical. And she understands the power of art and architecture to uplift our students, to engage their minds, and to enrich their experience. So, as much as we owe to Suzanne, this would not have happened without another person, and that person is Mika Brzezinski. Mika, I can't see you at this moment, but thank you. Thank you for sharing your mother's art with us here at New York Tech. Your doing so is very special because it's a deeply personal act of giving and sharing. And therefore, having Emily's art here is particularly meaningful for us. Let me once again thank you on behalf of all of us, but specifically, let me thank you on behalf of our New York Tech students, because it is they who most enjoy and will experience this art for years to come. Thank you.
Wow, that was pretty good, even by Zoom, I have to say. That was a very moving. Thank you, Hank. We really appreciate your being able to at least join us by Zoom. And he was really disappointed about not being able to be here in person. So, Oops. Oh my, okay, you're still talking. Okay, so right now I have the honor of introducing another wonderful person, Mayor Bill de Blasio. In addition to our love of art and our belief in sustainability, another thing we all have in common here tonight is that we've all been enduring a pandemic since March of 2020. This is a common bond that unites us and shows all of us New Yorkers that we will once again prevail. I introduce Mayor Bill de Blasio, mayor of one of the largest cities in the world and also my hometown. Yes, I was born and raised here. We appreciate his work to shepherd us through the pandemic and also his unwavering commitment to sustainability and understanding the role of urban environments in the efforts to address climate change. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Suzanne, thank you so much. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Hank, everyone at New York Tech for doing something that enriches the city. And when you enrich the city of New York, you enrich the whole world, really. This is a special moment when we need more inspiration. We need something to help get our hope back. And the power of art and culture in this moment of history cannot be overstated. I really want people to think about what we've been through over 2 years. We're only beginning to understand it. But what we do know is we sought every element of hope, every glimmer, every moment that made us feel we could get through, we could recapture what we had, maybe even we could go farther. And in this city, as art and culture started to reemerge, that hope reemerged, that sense of possibility. It was extraordinary to watch. We couldn't be whole without arts and culture in our city. And so as another exhibit opens, it reminds us of what we've overcome. And this is an auspicious moment. Yesterday we had the New York Marathon, coming back again strong, a beautiful moment. And today, for the first time in a long time, international visitors are arriving at our airports. So it's all happening at the same moment as this exhibit, telling us we're overcoming, we're finding our way to something better. I want to take a moment really quickly to say this exhibit moves me on many levels. It particularly moves me because it exemplifies the extraordinary contributions to this city and this nation of the Brzezinski family. And I want people to think for a moment, choose your favorite Brzezinski, and then think about all that that individual has done, but put them together in one family. And think about the relentless, energetic sense of giving back in every way, in public policy, in journalism, in art, in academia. It's extraordinary. We sometimes, I think Joe will appreciate this, we look back, and some of us look back a little bit with longing to certain generations. We talk about the greatest generation of World War II. We talk about the generation of the founders and those who helped us create this nation at the time of the American Revolution. And we ask ourselves, was that moment in history what created the greatness, or was it a particular combination of people who gathered together just for a brief and shining moment? But we should take inspiration from the fact that one family in just a few generations has done so much and given us so much and given us so much hope. So let's do, first of all, a round of applause for Brzezinski's Far and Wide. And if there's a handsome available tree, she'd like to meet that tree. It's basically a tree version of online dating. But what extraordinary work she has created. And in a moment where we realize both the power of art to sustain us and give us hope, we also have found ourselves turning back to nature. And I think everyone in this room might agree we've turned a little too far from nature. We talk about sustainability, and we talk about fighting the climate crisis. We realize everything that brings us back to a connection with nature helps us to survive at this point, and certainly gives us a sense of a spirit that we lack sometimes in the day-to-day madness we live in. So these beautiful works pull us back to our essence, pull us back to our hope. Emily, I hope you can hear us there.
Oh, yeah, she can.
But thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for this city and this nation with this beautiful exhibit. Let's thank her. And I also want to make clear, Joe, I was including you in the family in that praise because I don't want her to be missing. You're pretty good too, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. From Camp David Accords to cable news hubs.
Yeah, right. There's still hope, Joe. There's still hope. Everybody, look. I'll conclude with this. What makes a recovery? What makes a recovery? We're all asking that at this moment, and we're defining it. A recovery sometimes is considered physical. Do people come back to work? Is there the same number of people on the streets? Are there the same number of jobs? Those are all very real things. We care about those things. But the recovery I'm most interested in is our belief that we can go farther. I hope after this pandemic, the greatest crisis we've ever faced, we come out of it with a sense of our own strength. Just as Emily's art shows us the beauty of nature, and her art and her life are a story of resiliency, I hope we come out of this moment renewed. Tired, yes, but renewed. I hope we see the strength in each other. I hope we feel fellowship. I hope we recognize what we've all been through and how we helped each other in ways we never could have imagined. I hope that everyone who comes to this exhibit leaves it ready to do more. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor de Blasio. I was quite touched by that. I mean, it was really beautiful. Thank you. And there's a lot that we can say about what we've all been through, but the idea that maybe we'll come out of this even better is a really inspirational message for us all. So thank you. So now I'm going to introduce our sculptor and our wonderful sculptor's daughter, Emily and Mika. Emily is joining by FaceTime, so hi. I have actually met Emily twice now, and each time we really love talking about art and love talking about other artists and sculptors, and have always promised her I'll send her some different influences that I think might be interesting to her, and she and I really enjoy it. I'm also going to introduce Mika, the daughter of Emily. As we all know, Mika is an amazing, bright, light, thoughtful personality. We know she's an accomplished author, founder of Know Your Value, and that she's the co-host of the pivotal morning show, Morning Joe. What brings us all here together tonight, though, is that Mika is also a daughter who really loves her mom. We developed the title of this exhibit from a recent article Mika wrote about her role as a daughter and a caregiver. I spent 3 weeks alone with my 89-year-old mom, and it was one of the best times of my life, was the title of the article. We know the pandemic has had an incredible impact on all of us. Caregivers, parents have all suffered throughout the world. Not being able to visit, nor being able to hug our loved ones has not been easy. Our health professionals took on that role in many ways. The title of the exhibit felt perfect to us. Acknowledge the role of art and nature in healing, and also acknowledge our caregivers and salute our health professionals. As many of you may know, New York Tech has a vital medical school, our College of Osteopathic Medicine, and a highly respected school of health professions, so we all have a deep respect for those frontline professionals through this difficult time. The 6 themes in this exhibit, which by the way was foreshadowed by the mayor, art and nature, healing, art and family, art and resiliency, art and learning, and art and design, are rich with photographs and stories throughout the exhibit from Mika and her mother, Emily. In this exhibit, we also have a beautiful film of Emily explaining her inspiration, and we also will have a follow-up film of Emily recently explaining her sculpture Mother Earth to me in her studio, as well as with Paige, which we will soon have available. Help me to welcome Mika Brzezinski, author, co-anchor of Morning Joe, Know Your Values founder, and the loving daughter of our beloved sculptor, Emily Brzezinski.
Thank you so much. Okay, Joe, you want to put my mom over here? Yes. Okay. All right. Be careful, right? Yes, ma'am. So, hi, Mom. So now I'm nervous. I was fine until now I see my mom in my eye line, and I'll start to sweat. But thanks to Dr. Hank Foley and Mayor de Blasio, you always come through when I'm in a pinch. You're there. I mean, every time. He's a good friend and hasn't done an incredible job in this city on COVID. Let's just say it. So thank you for everything that you've done. And a special thanks to Nada's family. Thank you so much. We are honored to be really the first home in your care. And Suzanne and I have become fast friends over the past year. We're obsessed with my mom's work. Along with Paige, who's been working with us, who's become, my mom's nickname is Bumba, and Paige is the Bumba Whisperer. She can finish her sentences, which has been necessary because my mother, when my father passed, had 2 heart attacks, diagnosed with Parkinson's, a little bit of dementia, but she fights on every day, and it's the art that brings her back. And Mayor de Blasio was talking about this closeness that we are feeling once again, very carefully being close again. So I do feel like bringing us together, all the different parts of my world that I'm so blessed to see here today. First, my husband, who flew up today, surprised me, who really made my mother's 5th act, 6th act in her career possible. We brought her down to Florida when my father passed, and she was living in his music studio, which she loved because she's an artist, he's an artist, and they get each other. And Joe was saying to me, you know, she can't really live here without her art. Where Paige and my friend Rachel and Joe and we all work together to find a place big enough for her art. It is 6,000 square feet, this studio that we put together, and it's still not big enough. Some of them have to lay down. Because her pieces are monumental. I've got my Morning Joe family, including the guys behind the cameras, Scutro and Jeff here, who are going to be putting this on the show tomorrow morning, who were with me in Vermont. Who were with me in, if you can believe this full circle experience, they were with me in Vermont this weekend, helping me put together my daughter's art studio. It skipped a generation, trust me. So it did. Mom, don't worry, Carly's going to be great. I'm the spokesperson. Mike Barnacle is here. Thank you for coming, Mike. The Lemire's are here, and I kind of, you know, he's new on Way Too Early, so everyone hates him, but he's really good. And so I appreciate your coming, and Kat's here, and Susan Del Percio's here. I mean, I cannot believe that we're together in the same room carefully. I also want to mention my Bronxville family, which I am really touched that Peter and Charlotte and Hillary, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hug you if I'm allowed. And Susie French, my other mom. Susie French is here, Mom. Marianne Hayes, thank you all so much for coming because it is really, really nice to see everybody and to share. And so what you have here today, this massive bench here and these 2 pieces, these are some of my mother's tiniest pieces, okay? She works in large-scale monumental form, and I should mention that one of my close friends and someone who has followed and supported my mother through the years, City Lansing is here. She's the one with the cutest dog in the world, Cupcake. So thank you, City, for coming. We spend summers in Maine with City and just have so much fun talking about she's an art collector and supports my mom, and Cupcake is just gorgeous. I want that dog. So let me tell you a little bit about my mother's relationship with trees, because What you have behind me here today in the window is a bench made entirely from one trunk. So all of her pieces are, most of the time, one trunk, and they all, no matter how big, and you'll see some of these here, like a person is this big to this piece. They all stand on their own. And my mother said when she was at Wellesley, she took one of those courses that, you know, what are you going to be when you grow up? And every time she took that test, it said engineer. And you can see in her pieces in the way they stand on their own, even if they are towering and incredibly dangerously heavy, they all stand up. There are two hollowed trunks here named Boy and Girl. Those are maple. And that's part of a series entitled Water Garden, which I will tell you more about later. But first, a little bit more about my mother and her lure to the forest. At a very young age, trees and their secrets that they held were my mother's passion. They were truly her first love. My father was her second, and that was a 64-year passionate romance, but trees came first. Nothing came between my mom, her axe, her chisel, and her chainsaw. Absolutely nothing, okay? She had a stage where she worked in plastics and resin, but it was short-lived. The mystery of a trunk from its natural habitat always brought her back to that medium. And my mother's favorite kind of trunk is massive, old, dead. If it's a really good day, it's got some rotten parts that you can chunk out. On a lucky day, she will find one dry, dead, and completely hollowed out, holed out, tunneled through with bugs. That is like a banner day for my mom. And nobody knows that more than Paige and the people in her life who had to, find a way to bring a massive trunk from an island in Maine all the way down to her studio in McLean, Virginia, paying off a lobster man to tug it, and then getting one of those big trucks, Mack trucks with the open back, and my mom driving it herself down the highway, and my dad pacing in the master bedroom going, why is she so crazy? Why is she so crazy? She's home, she's home, she's home. So there was this love relationship between my mom and her tree trunks, where she would find them all over the world, and then my dad trying to also help her make it happen. There are some great pieces right now on display. There's the Lament, which is right here. You can see it in Washington, D.C. in bronze outside the Krieger Museum. Those are each several tons, each piece. It's 3 pieces. There's one of her huge arches in bronze outside the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C. She has pieces all over the world, several along the river in Prague. And my father's favorite piece was the arch because he could stand in the middle of it and be the centerpiece. But for her, my mom, this bench, and the bench that is behind me is one of her favorite pieces. Her process is taking on something so big and feeling the fear of that challenge, and then getting that chainsaw going, and then literally falling into a trance-like state and following the wood as it shows her where to go. So her first feeling is fear, but then as she gets going, whether the axe or the chainsaw, she gets taken over, and it's very hard to get her attention when she's working on a piece. If you can imagine, my mother, in her 60-year career, has never had an injury. And she has a lot of chainsaws, and they are metal. They are not the new, safety versions. And I wrote a book with her called The Lure of the Forest a few years ago, and Steel Chainsaws approached us, and they wanted my mom to be their 85-year-old spokesmodel. And their campaign was Real People, Steel People. And they came with all this safety equipment and a new chainsaw, and she was like, oh, no, I cannot. She wanted her 1986 steel, pull it, and it's got gasoline in it. I don't know. And they were so frightened. They were all like, get away. You have to wear goggles. And she's never had an injury. And as Paige and anyone who spent time with her will tell you, my mother says, you just have to have very sharp tools. And if you have a sharp chainsaw and a sharp axe, you'll never get hurt, because it will do the work and it'll never bounce back at you. And she's never had an injury, so just stay out of her way and you'll be okay. I've had to compete with that chainsaw. This bench was completed back in 2009. It was carved from a single piece of American cherry, and it's been shown in Chicago, Washington, D.C., and in Virginia. You'll see the lines and the grooves in the bench, and you can feel and run your hands on it. You're welcome to sit on it. She loves to see people sitting on it and enjoying it and hanging over it. And it's a very romantic bench. There it is. This is the hill at our home in McLean, Virginia, and I can't tell you how many times I saw my mom and my dad sitting together right here, looking down the hill and just being together. And they would do that most evenings in the summer, the fall, and the spring. And that was where they would sit together and just kind of meditate and be amused by whatever it is we've done. And my best friend told me today that her first kiss was on that bench. So have a seat, guys, and see what happens. But that image of my parents on the bench is going to stay with me forever. It sort of crystallizes everything about them. So it's fine art, and it's also furniture, and you might meet your match. So there you go. And it's great for the students here. I'm really excited that the students will get to experience my mother's art and to read about it here on the walls, and hopefully take a break from their work and sit, be on your phone, enjoy the bench. I mentioned boy and girl, the two maple pieces over there, which Suzanne literally stole from me. We were just moving the bench, and then all of a sudden, boy and girl started flying in the air and into the truck. She, I think, is a great idea. It's part of Water Garden, and I'll read to you what my mother said about this when these were shown in another part of the world. She says, "Frozen in time and space, the children depicted in the trunks, identities known only to God, interact with one another without a care in a world that grows increasingly hostile, disparate, and polluted with actions and inactions of humanity. Yet even in this extreme world, the youth find a common source of elation in the flowing of our most precious earthly resource, water." And as you can see, my mother is a much better speaker than I am. It's very beautiful, and her concepts of things are stunning. So today, at almost 90 years old, I mentioned her struggles, but honestly, every day she pulls herself up straight. She loves to go to that studio, and her connection with nature and her tools are a central part of her health and wellness. And Suzanne noticed that when she came down, she had one of those moments where the dementia just washed away, and she was explaining each piece in her studio as if it was the moment that she discovered the trunk. And I'm so glad you got to see that, because that's my mom in her essence. So finally, I just want to point out these columns and their themes. Art and nature. That's obviously my mother, and her first connection on this earth was not with another human being, but with nature. My mother is truly a lover of nature and of life. Art and healing, you'll see that column. This work, even having shows, this is her healing. This is what drives her. It's her passion. And honestly, I can take her to physical therapy, and all these doctors, they'll just say, get her back into her studio, because that's where she's happy. Art and resilience. My mother never gave up on her identity as an artist. I talk about 50 over 50 and women doing amazing things in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. I talk about knowing your value. This is a woman who was ahead of her time and knew exactly who she was and never let go of it, whether it was 3 surly teenagers, a husband in the White House, trips all over the world, messes everywhere to clean up. She never let go of her art. She put down the chainsaw, did what was in front of her, and then went back to it and never gave it up. And as what I've learned in my 50 over 50 series with Forbes, women have a long runway. They do amazing things, well over 50, 60, 70, and 80. We're improving that every day. Art and learning. Here we are in this beautiful space. Thank you, Nada. Learning and art. Art is a form of storytelling, and so you have it here. And then art and design. There's no better place the New York Institute of Technology to play out my mother's story, and we have more to come on this, which we will hold our breath on and pray for the future, but today we celebrate my mother today. Thank you very much. And I think we're going to cut a ribbon. We're going to, oh, you do it, okay.
Okay. So thank you. That was just, I'm super touched. I don't know if you've noticed, but so as Mika had explained, we do have 3 original sculptures here, along with the photographic review of Emily's work that is aligned with the themes that we just discussed. I'll just say Cherry Bench 2 and Girl and Boy of the Water Garden series. We look forward to you all returning to visit New York Tech when we unveil Girl and Boy after their move to the Long Island campus with hopefully an additional sculpture, and the opening of our New York Tech Woodlands Art Collection in 2022, as well as the dedication of the Nada Asaf Anid Art Gallery and Student Lounge, which I've already been told by Paul that Nada didn't like that name and wants to change, so we're going to change it. Also, please tell your friends, colleagues, and families about this exhibit. Our hope is everyone will learn more about the work of Emily Brzezinski and the role of art and nature in healing. We will have public gallery nights every 3rd Friday of each month, and you will all receive reminders because I have all your emails. And we will continue to meet artists and sculptors for our new collection. We appreciate your support, and we continue to need your support to keep the work of amazing sculptors like Emily Brzezinski available for our students. This is an amazing beginning, and with your support, we can continue it. Thank you so much to President Foley, Emily and Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Thank you so much for being here. And as well, I have to say, the team that put this together, it's not just me. It's the architect who's been here, Maddie Burke-Vigeland from Gensler, all of my team that basically has worked 24 hours straight for at least 14 days. And we just really appreciate your all being here. And thank you, all of you, for being here and making this exhibit so wonderful. All right, so now for the ribbon cutting. You have a scissors. Everyone has a scissors.
All right.
And
Where are the wildly exaggerated sizes?
And Hank is here too. Hank Foley is joining us. Although he won't be able to, we'll make sure you have a scissors. There he goes. He has his own scissors. All right. Yeah.
You can do it for me, Suzanne.
Way to do this on camera.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to establish some order right here. You ready? All our photographers ready? Ready. 1, 2, 3.
You want to come up real quick so we can get a picture?